Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug Podcast. It is time for episode 418, Wrestlemania 36, Night 1. I am, of course, your host, Aaron Nix, the harbinger of professional wrestling and the harbinger of this fucking podcast. We get the swearing in nice and early on this bad boy. WrestleMania 36, Night 1 is down, and Night 2 will be coming, of course, tomorrow. But for now, we have much to discuss, and I won't be doing it alone, because joining me is, first of all, from Middle America, weighing in tonight, an astonishing 98 pounds, is Jeremy Miller.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm not 98 pounds, but it's okay. I am kind of skinny.
He is indeed, he is. And joining us to complete the triple threat from parts unknown Canada, weighing in at an astonishing 140 pounds of gypsy-level liqueur, is Canada's second favourite cleaner and the only man to ever win 2 podcasts in the banks, Kyle Wilkinson.
140, buddy. You're so generous. So I drank a bit during this show, so I'm going to be a lot more animated than usual, and there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, there's only one place to start with this incredible night of mixed reactions and mixed wrestling, and that, of course, is that we have a new Universal Champion, Braun Strowman.
No. Oh, God damn it. No. That's it. The podcast is over. Have a nice day.
How are we going to do this? Do we start with what was best, or do we just go in chronological order and break it down and then cream our knickers for half an hour over probably the greatest achievement in WWE history?
I think we should go chronologically. Just kind of give the listeners kind of a crescendo.
They got to work to it. We're going to go full New Japan style here and build to the finish. WrestleMania 36 Night 1. Let's get right into it. Let's get right down to it. So, pre-show, Drew Gulak versus Cesaro. A big fuck you to all the smarks, as this went about 6 minutes. Cesaro also going over because fuck you. That's why. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, the fuck yous continue, because opening the show is the Women's Tag Team Championship match, which ultimately I actually thought was very good and one of the stronger efforts of the night. The Kabuki Warriors being dethroned by Nikki Cross and, of course, Alexa Bliss, who are now 2-time Women's Tag Team Champions. What do you think?
Well, they're the first time ever 2-time Tag Team Champions, so that's pretty neat. I love the Kabuki Warriors, but at the same time, I think they not necessarily have to go their separate ways, but I think they're both invaluable as single stars. So I think there's so much more they could do as singles competitors.
Do we think it's right to take the titles off them then? I assume you're in agreement with that opinion.
I am. I love Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I think they've been just fantastic. They're hilarious together. I think they pair really well. Going over the Kabuki Warriors is no small feat, because they've been just, I can't say dominant because they haven't really defended the titles that much, to be honest, but I think the story wraps up well. You know, Alexa constantly calling out the Kabuki Warriors for not defending the titles, and then when they do, they lose. That I'm kind of okay with how it wraps up. They can have one more rematch at Extreme Rules or Money in the Bank, whichever fucking pay-per-view is going to come next, because they like to change their schedule up every year. But the Kabuki Warriors are already established as a tag team. So like I said, let them go their separate ways. And there's got to be some more women on that roster that they can make nice tag teams out of. We all know about, VXT, Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo are real, like best friends in real life. I'm sure they'd make a great tag team. Those women's tag team championships are supposed to be defended across all brands. So they haven't gone to NXT yet. Make that a thing.
That is a fantastic shout. I really like that idea. Jeremy Miller, you happy with your new tag team champions?
I am, and I'm not. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, 2-time women tag team champions. Cool. Awesome. And unless this, loss between the Kabuki Warriors makes Asuka completely snap and then go after Kairi Sane, and then those two just have a whopper fucking match between each other in order to assert their womanly dominance. I guess. From going back to the pre-show match, Cesaro going over Gulak, that was typical. We knew it was going to happen. Now the question is, like Kyle was saying, who's going to be the next tag team? VXT is a great shout. Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green would be great. Maybe Deonna goes to the Robert Stone brand with Chelsea. But I could see them doing Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai.
I'm not so sure that works for me, but this really does expose the growing and glowing lack of women's tag teams they have available at their disposal. That's probably the biggest problem. Glossing over it quite rapidly because I have no interest in talking about, Elias went over King Corbin in twice the time, it should be pointed out, as Drew Gulak and Cesaro were afforded on a pre-show that lasted an hour. Drew Gulak and Cesaro went 4 minutes 25. Pointless. Utterly pointless. Two of the best technical wrestlers.
That's an
of this
injustice.
generation. That is awful. That is fucking awful. And the hits don't stop. So, I've got no problem with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross catching tag titles. Thought that was a good match. Very competitive. Decent length as well. 15 minutes. Elias goes over King Corbin. I don't care. Boring match. Nothing match. Really tedious, really tedious. So, unless you guys really want to talk about it, which I'd rather you didn't, I want to talk about Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. There were some mistakes on this show. Let's be honest. There were some mistakes. Say. Settle down. You get your fucking turn. There's plenty of meat, so everybody could eat at the table of Plug. Shayna Baszler comes into this match in one of the most vicious and dominant streaks and fashions we've ever seen. And this match was 8 minutes 30. That's a big error, first and foremost. However, the biggest problem here is that Becky Lynch retains the championship by countering, of course, the Kirifuda clutch, rolling back through with the infamous Bret Hart spot. On Stone Cold Steve Austin for the Survivor Series 1996, although obviously she didn't use the turnbuckle. Becky Lynch retains. You gave me, I would say, do you know what this is, right? I really think Vince McMahon has a fucking problem with NXT stars getting over. Because what happened, now, for me, this was the wrong thing to do, whereas WrestleMania 34 was the right thing to do. Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. They had a masterful match. Charlotte Flair tapped out Asuka. Now, a lot of people consider that to be a huge mistake. I don't. I think that was excellent. Fast forward 2 years. Here we are again. In a very similar fashion. This was very early on in the show. Very early on. And it was billed as one of the biggest main events they had. They were afforded 8.5 minutes. This match was actually quite seesaw. It felt very 50-50 in places. And ultimately, Becky Lynch goes over in an incredibly deflating and boring manner. And for me, this screams of, obviously everyone says, there's rumours that Vince McMahon doesn't like Shayna Baszler. I mean, there's rumours that Vince McMahon doesn't like anybody. This was a fucking terrible booking decision. I would argue this was the worst thing they did on this entire show in terms of booking, because everything else you kind of either expect or don't care about or whatever it may be, or you've just jizzed your nuts completely in the case of the main event, which was afforded an astonishing amount of time, and rightfully so. But this is a massive error, because what you have done is you have built Shayna Baszler. She's gone into an elimination chamber and basically murdered everybody, with Asuka offering a decent amount of offense, to be fair. And then she comes into WrestleMania and gets beaten pretty easily and made to look a little bit stupid. And yeah, this is a fucking awful decision. Once again, Becky Lynch goes over. Now Becky Lynch has gone over everybody who's even remotely credible. So now the only thing you've got left is possibly Ronda Rousey coming back and dethroning her and getting back her title. That's the only thing really that seems credible at this point. I think that's a horrible decision. And to be honest, I'm surprised at how calm I've been in trying to execute my analysis of this match. It was booked terribly. The decision for Becky Lynch to go over in any way for me is a wildly pathetic one. I think that's ridiculous. And ultimately, I think you've just cut Shayna Baszler's legs off on the grandest stage of them all. It doesn't matter if no fans are there. It's still WrestleMania. It's still the grand stage. And you have just chopped her off at the knees and said, fuck you. And yeah, this is going to take a hell of a lot of doing to rebuild Shayna Baszler again.
I am so freaking triggered by this. Shayna Baszler was the most dominant woman in NXT, comes up, goes to Raw, attacks Becky Lynch, does the whole vampiric bite to the neck thing, which I'm still not cool with that, goes to the Elimination Chamber, batters the entire Raw Women's Division, and then comes to WrestleMania, all the hype, all the fire, all the passion with her, and she gets jobbed out to fucking Becky Lynch on a roll-up that has been seen by Ember Moon, Asuka, and numerous other NXT superstars. Fuck right the hell off. If this doesn't result in a rematch and actually a good match instead of this roll-up bullshit, I'll be highly irritated. But the other thing that I'm highly irritated about is now, so we have let Shayna Baszler get, like you said, cut off at the legs. Who the fuck goes next? You said Ronda Rousey. There's only one other person that I could see with other than Ronda Rousey, and that's Nia Jax, because of the whole breaking her face thing. And if we get that, and Nia is the one to dethrone Becky over Baszler, oh, I will be so fucking irritated.
Yeah, I mean, you said this match got, what, 8.5 minutes? 8 minutes 30, I think you said?
Yeah, bang on 8.5 minutes.
That's a severe injustice to both women, first and foremost. We both know they're so capable of putting on a much better match than that. Second, Lynch going over Baszler is the worst idea I've seen since, oh God, what's another really, really bad example? I don't know, Lacey Evans going after the women's championship, which she wasn't ready yet. She's improved leaps and bounds, don't get me wrong, but that whole, maybe not that match specifically, but having Rollins and Becky's relationship shoved down our throat and Corbin and Lacey for like 4 months, that was terrible. This is worse than that. Baszler came in.
This is worse than Goldberg winning Universal title.
Oh, this is worse than Goldberg beating Kevin Owens in 2017. Fuck what happened at Super Showdown with The Fiend. This is worse than him beating Kevin Owens. Because I like KO more than The Fiend. Don't at me. Don't care.
Surprise. Surprise. Canadian-born Carl Wilkinson prefers KO. Big surprise.
Who knew? Am I right? But lastly, you guys have mentioned it already, but it's my turn. Shayna Baszler was the hottest superstar going into WrestleMania. I'm sorry. Her debut with the bite, originally, I didn't like it. I thought it was a bit tacky. But the more I look back on it, it just proves how vicious Shayna was. She's a cage fighter. She's fully capable of murdering you in real life, doing whatever it possibly takes to get that win. So that grew on me. She goes into the chamber and does what no one has ever done, male or female. She eliminates the entire field. Every single one. And she goes into Mania and gets rolled up by a thing we've seen 100 times. Kairi Sane did it to win her first NXT Women's Championship. I think like you said, Ember Moon's done it. Everyone's tried to do that on Shayna Baszler, and the fact that it works more often than not just makes Shayna look like a fucking tool, as if she couldn't scout ahead and realize that this could happen. I think this potentially damages her irreparably. It's going to take so much to fix this. And that serves as a massive injustice to her, because she's the best female heel that the wrestling industry has seen in many a year. And she loses to Becky in 8 minutes? Fuck right off. This match should not have been a 50-50 fought match. It should have been Becky maybe goes in early at the start of the match, gets a bit of offense, a nice flurry, and then Shayna comes in and just wrecks her and chokes her out in 4 minutes. This is going to leave an incredibly sour taste in my mouth, and it's going to take a hell of a night 2 or first half of night 1 perhaps to change my opinion.
I think the women's division are taking unnecessary hits at this point. I really do. And this is one of them. And like the SmackDown women's match, right? With all due respect, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that match. There are some great talents in that match that I love, but the build for that match is embarrassing. It's pathetic. Basically, for a couple of weeks, we had Bayley and Sasha Banks bitching and being catty, and then women have been inserted into a 5 challenge match, and the idea is just get the belt off of Bayley, and it'll either be a device for her to retain or Sasha Banks to maybe stitch her up. But either way, and also the fact that, you know, Lacey Evans, Tamina, it is what it is. Like, I actually really like Lacey Evans. I think she's really exciting, but she just looks so out of place in this. They all do. There's no build to it. It's shit. So you were relying on Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler to be fantastic. You were, and you thought, well, those women aren't going to fail unless the system causes them to fail. And that's exactly what happened here. This is a big fuck you, and this is where people lose their shit about Vince McMahon. Because there's no way you can sit there and tell me that anyone other than Vince McMahon would have booked that kind of garbage and that kind of finish. Who said 8.5 minutes? 8.5 minutes for what has been predominantly the most strongly booked championship in the last couple of years. This belt main evented, or at least one of these belts, you know, this belt was sort of half main evented, so to speak, was the main event of last year's WrestleMania. And here we are, 4th match in? Fuck off. 8.5 minutes, just fuck off. It makes me really angry. I'm desperately trying not to go full Aaron Cornette with it, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, why? Why am I supposed to care about women's wrestling if you're going to continue to give me that shit? Shayna Baszler in the Elimination Chamber, and I don't give a shit what the sweaty fucking marks said, who sit in their basements and eat all their fucking Cheetos. The reality is that Shayna Baszler whipping ass. I got real chill vibes and excitement and an aura about watching Shayna Baszler fucking murder people in that Elimination Chamber. That felt so good. I mean, even my partner watched that and was like, yeah, she looks like a fucking badass. She genuinely looks like she's fucking people up. That's what's so cool about her. She is not a wrestler. She is a coach. And all this flies in the face of everything. What is Shayna Baszler at her core? She's basically the female Brock Lesnar. A dominant, world-class MMA fighter, whether you like it or not, you know, in a fantastic division. She's an incredible wrestler as well, so much better than most MMA crossovers ever could ask to be. And yet she's booked in a completely opposite way to Brock Lesnar. Yeah, you see Brock Lesnar, he's just basically undefeatable, and then he has one match, maybe, you know, maybe twice a year he might, you know, sort of drop the belt or do the job or whatever, and the rest of the time he's just utterly dominant or he just doesn't work, whatever. Shayna Baszler is that level of dominance. She's that level of incredible aptitude in ring technicians. You know, she's an in-ring technician and she is a student of catch-as-can wrestling. But, you know, she doesn't cut a 10-minute leprechaun promo, so she's not worth it. It really, I'm so angry about it. I'm actually having a really hard time trying to articulate that rage because it's just festering in me. And maybe it's because I'm beaten down by WWE's terrible booking decisions, but I'm so tired of this stuff. This is the stuff that makes me want to go to bed early. It's 3:37 in the morning, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad I stayed up for good reason, but yeah, this wound me up. And the final thing I'll just say is that what you have basically done is sacrificed your entire women's division just to try and get Becky Lynch over even more as the Stone Cold gimmick. And she must sell a lot of man t-shirts, and it must be worth the financial hit because this is garbage storytelling. This is a garbage match, and for what it's worth, congratulations, Vince. You basically cut the rest of the division off just so that you can fucking get Becky over just a little bit more instead of having an intrigue and a unique rivalry that could have lasted a lot longer. You're a fucking idiot sometimes, and this absolutely is room 101 when it comes to Vince McMahon's stupid fucking book. booking decisions. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. The IC title was up next. Sami Zayn. So you knew the Smarks, which we're kind of smarky. We're happy to admit that. You knew they were going to be angry. You knew the hardcore wrestling fans, they were really going to be pissed off at that decision, because even if you love Becky Lynch, you have to admit that Shayna Baszler, she seemed to be on the perfect trajectory for a win. So what's going to quieten us down? Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan. Stick the indie darlings out there. Absolutely. Here's a match that would have been good 15 years ago. And yeah, another big fuck you. Sami Zayn retains the championship with a very weak-looking haluva kick, which he kind of flew into. Drew Gulak, unfortunately, dispatched by the boys. And yeah, do you know what? I hate to say this, but I am so bored of Sami Zayn. I really like him. He's a wonderful guy, and he is no doubt at his best one of the better wrestlers in the world. And he's entertaining as well in cut promos. There's nothing wrong with Sami Zayn at all, but it's too little too late. It's been way too long, and I know Carl's going to echo this sentiment, so I won't go on about it too long, but Sami Zayn has been from pillar to post so many times. And for me, every time it just hasn't worked, and it hasn't had the desired effect that I think they wanted. And for me, I couldn't care less about this match. Daniel Bryan looked fantastic, no question. I thought that, the work rate of this match was not to be questioned, really. But ultimately, it's short as well. It's 9 minutes. 9 minutes. 9 minutes 20 to be precise. And yeah, this was lackluster. And at this point, I got to be honest, I was really losing the will to live with this show. And it almost feels like this was all done on purpose, just so that we would pop our tits off even more at the end. But holy shit, there's some bad booking decisions here. And Sami Zayn retaining the title, I get he's only had it for, a month, but come on. Like, he beat Braun Strowman for that belt. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it was 3-1. He beat Braun Strowman. And now he beats Daniel Bryan. And that's fine. But then you see what Braun Strowman's doing later in the day. And then you see what Daniel Bryan's doing. At this point, I feel like they don't give a shit about Daniel Bryan. I really do. I feel like they just want Daniel Bryan to kind of get back in his hole. Oh, you're an indie guy. I want you to turn out and have a decent match. But ultimately, you're not going to really do much because we don't trust you with anything. But hey, he's the guy you rely on to go out there and make stars out of everyone else. He's got that Jericho vibe about him. And you wonder whether Daniel Bryan would ever have his day in the sun again. Maybe he had it at WrestleMania 30, and we should be thankful for that moment. But yeah, I didn't really give a shit about this match. I'm over it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that, I love Sami Zayn, Canadian, but it's too little too late for me. He should have had some sort of, God damn it, I got the hiccups. He should have had a title forever ago. But it's just, he has it now, and it's it's too little too late for me. I can't go on much more.
Jeremy Miller, jump in
this.
while
okay.
tries to get rid of the hiccups.
That's fucking priceless. That's gold right there. No.
Speak for yourself. I'm not editing that.
Right. So, again, I'm with you guys. I loved Sami Zayn in NXT. I did. He was awesome. I liked his first couple years in the WWE. But him as the Intercontinental Champion right now, being a shit-eating, I want to avoid getting touched by anybody or getting hurt, and running around and using Nakamura and Cesaro as like pawn pieces. It was dumb. It was ridiculous. And then the way they ended the match with a shit haluva kick that Daniel Bryan literally just ran into. Well, actually flew into. But either way, stupid. Really loud. Fucking insane that we had to get Daniel Bryan, who, for my money, is one of the best technical wrestlers alive, and he gets jobbed out to Sami Zayn. Like, why? Why even have the match? Jesus
It's pointless.
Christ.
It's pointless. I think I said this during the while we watched, because obviously we watched it live together. For me, it just felt like a fucking Raw main event or a Raw mid-card match. This is the kind of match you'd have on SmackDown as a throwaway match. This might be like, you know, in the middle of the show, half decent match and whatever, and you know, a lot of these matches for me just didn't feel like WrestleMania worthy matches. They really didn't, and this was really one of the highlights of it in terms of highlighting my argument. This was just, you know, I hate to say it, but it says a lot about the current state of the wrestling landscape that I'm sitting here telling you that Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn shouldn't have even been at WrestleMania. You know, that's a big problem. I am a wrestling fan. I've loved wrestling my whole life. I love the art of wrestling. I study it intensively. I train to be a wrestler. I do so many things. My life is all consumed essentially by wrestling and, you know, the occasional trip down to the stables. But I just feel sad that at this point, not only was it not that great, it was all right, but I didn't care. And I think that's a real problem in the current state of WWE, that I don't care about Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn. It is what it is. And the fact that Sami Zayn retains means I care even less. Drew Gulak was outnumbered. This was basically like... These guys have been doing wrestling matches on SmackDown for the last couple of weeks. They've basically kind of been the main sort of wrestling focal point of these small shows. This felt cheap, really cheap. This just felt like a complete rehash of like, it was like, you saw a little bit of it similar on SmackDown, have another bit of that at WrestleMania. No. Like, WrestleMania is where you have your best matches. WrestleMania is where you have your marquee talents. WrestleMania is where you either culminate or you begin a magical story again. This was none of that. This could have been on the pre-show and I wouldn't have cared. Like, do you know what? I would have been all right with this being on the pre-show as well. This is my argument, actually, for a 2-day WrestleMania. Not, you know, I didn't think WrestleMania should have happened anyway. And I stand by that, despite the fact that I was given something really magical tonight. But I tell you what, you could have easily scrapped a lot of this shit and had one fucking night. Now, I know night 2 is stacked, and boy, we're going to have plenty to talk about tomorrow night, and hopefully it'll back it up. But it felt like they chucked a lot of the lower league matches on this. This almost felt like when you're watching the playoff finals in British football, and I'm sorry if nobody gets this analogy, but basically what they do is they have the playoff finals for each division, League 1, League 2, and then Championship. And obviously the Championship is the most important one, because if you win that, you get a place in the Premier League, which is, you know, the predominant football league over here. And, you know, on Friday you'd have League 2's playoff final. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's not bad, you know. A couple of lower league teams trying to get into League 2 and then League 1, excuse me. And then, of course, you know, on the Saturday, you'd have the League 1 playoff final. It's like, yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. The quality's still there. But ultimately, only the Championship playoff is where everybody gives a shit, because that's the one where all the money's made. That's the one where, you know, the winner's going to get all this money and they're going to get into the Premier League, the Premiership. And ultimately, that's how it felt tonight, with the exception of one match, you know, which was really a high-level marquee match. That was it. Everything else was, even the matches that were good, which we're about to talk about one, it just felt a bit cheap for me. They really did. Carl Watkins, anything to add, mate, or are you still struggling with the hiccups?
I'm fighting them a little bit, but no, there's not much more to add. This match was just... It's a shame to say Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn was a match that was just there. And that's all it was. Fuck me. It was just filler. And 10 years ago, we'd all be fucking shitting our pants. But now it's just like, yeah, cool. It happened.
So, with all the crap out of the way, WrestleMania decided that they actually wanted to fucking give us something good, and that came in the form of a triple threat ladder match. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but The Miz had fallen ill prior to this show, so unfortunately he could not be there to defend the Tag Team Championship, so WWE made an executive decision and opted for a singles tag team title triple threat, so one guy from each team represented. This was the turning point in some ways for WrestleMania, because this was fucking awesome. This I remember saying on a podcast recently that this had the potential to be for WrestleMania 36 what the TLC was for WrestleMania 17. Not necessarily the main event, but that kind of showpiece, that kind of marquee gimmick match that sat in the middle. And these boys went out there with no crowd, no real understanding of, any kind of... It's just a match. And you thought, oh, God, these guys are going to take shitty bumps and shitty risks in front of nobody. And you worried whether it might fall flat on its face. And ultimately, this match thrived beautifully. And I really believe that's down to the fact that Jimmy Uso, John Morrison, and of course... Kofi Kingston, former WWE champion. How the mighty have fallen in a year. They just know how to work, and they know how to entertain, and they know how to do this better than most people. And this is what happens when you just trust 3 world-class wrestlers to go out there and do their thing. It was absolutely incredible from start to finish. My only gripe with this entire match was the fact that Morrison literally spent about 15 years at the end of his match on the top of the ladder. It was like that meme where it's like, it has been 84 years. They was just like, get on with it, or get off, or do something, because right now you could have easily pulled the belts down. There might have been a bit of miscommunication there, but that should not shine away from the fact that this was a tremendous ladder match. One for the ages, man. This is going to go in my match of the year candidate list. I really thought it was that good.
Yeah, when you look at the competitors in that match, now I'll be honest, until you told me while we were doing a little bit of live watching together, I wasn't aware that this was just going to be a singles triple threat. I thought they were just going to shoehorn someone in for the Miz and they'd, do some shit. But I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad they gave us this beautiful triple threat ladder match. And if it wasn't for the main event, which we'll get to, don't you guys worry about that. We'll get there. But this was the match of the night for me until that, because these 3 guys, I mean, we all know the history between the Usos and the New Day. Potentially best rivalry of the 2010s. I think that's extremely fair to say.
I think yeah. No, I went on record as saying the Usos versus New Day, for me, was the greatest tag team rivalry since the original triple threat of Edge and Christian, the Hardys and the Dudleys.
Yeah, I don't think you can fight that in any possible way. Like, the biggest example for me is when I look back at their Hell in a Cell match. Some of the spots they were doing in that match were just so inventive. They were so over the top. I gave it 5 star.
I gave that match a 5 star. It was
How
incredible.
could you not? And then...
Well, so if your name's Dave, you didn't.
Oh, well, that fucking archaic dinosaur can suck an egg. The 3 competitors in this match, we all remember what John Morrison was like before he left, and he didn't change any when he was in Lucha Underground, when he was in Impact. The only thing he did was perfect his craft. And when he came back to WWE, he picked up right where he left off. He is a phenomenal athlete, an incredible superstar. We already know all about Kofi Kingston, and I think it was Jimmy in this match. And it was everything you could want and more. But I'd like to bring a lot of focus to the end of the match, the little spot where all 3 guys were hanging. Somehow the hanger that all the belts were on became unhooked, but all 3 men were hanging onto it. And... they're playing a bit of tug of war, not Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns tug of war. This was actually a manly tug of war. And Kofi and Jimmy are like, you know what? Let's just beat up Morrison. So they both headbutt him. And as he falls back, the belts unhook and he lands flat back on a ladder, but he has both titles in his hands. The Miz and Morrison retain in a beautifully crafted match. And I thought the end really punctuated the fact that this match was just... following only the main event, the best match on the card.
Miller, you like yourself some ladder matches?
Oh, this was a great one. I agree with Kyle's sentiment that this was match of the night before the main event. My favorite spot with this whole thing was the rope walk Spanish fly. Fucking John Morrison. Amazing. John Morrison.
I do like me a
genius.
Spanish fly. Oh, baby.
Oh, it was fantastic. And I almost wonder that if this whole pandemic didn't happen, is if would that match have been as good as it was tonight if it had Miz, Big E, and Jey Uso? Because that would have been 3 other bodies that could have, we could have got more spots, yes, but that match was like art. They were painting a picture, and it was fucking phenomenal. It almost looked like a Mona Lisa.
Most overrated painting in the world.
Wow. I've actually seen it in person, and I have to kind of agree. It's a bit boring. Kind of a bit like France, really. Sorry, France. It's not like anyone from France is listening, so fuck them. It's such an English thing to say. Fuck France. Yeah. What's very interesting as well is you mentioned that fact, Jay, that if you actually insert Big E and The Miz and Jey Uso in this match, I don't think it really gains much. Maybe with the other Uso, because the Usos are such an amazing talent, and for my money, the best tag team in the world. But, Big E and The Miz, great workers. Obviously, everyone involved is great workers, whether they're in the match or not. But The Miz and Big E, much more ground-based, Not much risk assessment in the way they wrestle. And I think that if you'd had them in this match, Big E's very good as a ballast. You always need a base. Something I was taught when I started training was, if you're a big guy, you should be good at being a base. That means that you're the kind of guy who can suplex people, hold them up, allow them to kind of almost improve their maneuvers and the way they wrestle. And Big E's very good at that. But in a ladder match, you want the crazy lunatics. You want the flippy horse shit. You need the hardcore element. And you've either got to be extremely violent or extremely athletic. That's what really makes these matches work. And they were very blessed, I suppose, in an unfortunate way, with what's happened with the illnesses and things, that the 3 guys who could really go for it were, of course, the most athletic. So, yeah, this sits so beautifully in the middle of the card. And my fear was, with the way WrestleMania was panning out, that they weren't going to get enough time, and we were just going to be left with this kind of quick, good, effective, but too short match. And instead, we got 18 minutes 30 of it was phenomenal. Second longest match on the card, although it's well behind the one that main event, as you can that you won't be surprised to hear. But yeah, I just loved it. I really did. I thought this was absolutely beautiful, and this was the first match where I thought, okay, this feels like a Mania level match. And that speaks volumes for me about the guys involved in this match. They were able to go out there in front of no audience, with very little in the way of pomp and circumstance, other than a couple of jocular toolboxes sitting up on the barrier. And they were able to deliver a level of entertainment that was on a par with working in front of an audience of 70,000. I think that's an absolutely astonishing achievement, and I hope when it's all said and done, the people who work behind the scenes, and obviously the big cheeses involved in this company, look back at that and remind themselves and remember that when the time comes, because once COVID-19 moves on from this earth, or, just dies the fuck down, and we get back to some sort of semblance of a normal life, a normality within our wrestling product, these are the guys that we should be remembering. We should be sitting down and saying, hey, remember that the guys involved in that tag team match, they went out there and delivered when ultimately a lot of other people couldn't. And that is an awesome achievement, in my opinion. Following up from that is Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens. Now, being very vocal about the fact I don't give a shit. But it has to be said, despite once again a very shady looking finish, at least in the first instance of this match, which ultimately was restarted, as you'll know, I gotta say I love this match. I really fucking enjoyed this match, and but for a couple of individuals who decided that they were just going to go full Oscar worthy for us, this would have been easily the best singles match of the night by some margin. They were phenomenal. I was so impressed, and when it comes down to it, they just went full Ring of Honor for the best part of 20 minutes. 17 minutes, 20 seconds of just sheer awesome Ring of Honor indie style nonsense. And then we got the sports entertainment afterwards. You know, it had everything. It had indie wrestling, it had athleticism, but it also had sports entertainment. It also had gimmicks, it had characters. You know, it had guys who could deliver on a multitude of different platforms. And I have to sit out here, you know, hang myself out to dry and say I was wrong. Absolutely wrong. This match was phenomenal. And maybe because, you know, I had no hype for this, I probably enjoyed it even more. But it just was great. And the ring bell shots for me, there's not enough for that. I don't think the ring bell is used nearly enough as a weapon. And hearing him ring, quite literally, Kevin Owens' bell, and then having the audacity to hand it to the timekeeper and yelling at him to ring the bell for a disqualification so he could get out of Dodge, was phenomenal. Literally, the only tiny nitpick is, I know it's wrestling logic and they have to suspend your disbelief, but it really annoys me when, like, Kevin Owens just gets on the mic and goes, no, you get back here. We're going to have a no disqualification match. It's like, oh, hang about. This geezer's never been a GM. If anything, he's upset management on numerous occasions. How hard is it to get somebody to just walk out on stage and go, you guys want to go again? Fine. No disqualification. Ring the bell. Simple little things like that. But honestly, shouldn't detract from the fact that these boys actually went out there and delivered a high caliber match. And once again, it's Kevin Owens in a match that nobody should care about. You know, just like when he tagged with Sami Zayn against Shane and Daniel Bryan, and ultimately no one gave a shit about anything other than Daniel Bryan returning. Just like when he wrestled in that ladder match at WrestleMania 32. Just like when he fucking had that singles match with Chris Jericho. You know, you look at it and you think this should be a great match, but for some reason it doesn't seem to click. But every single time Kevin Owens goes out there, he delivers.
Well, I mean, God, I really got to start wearing the Canadian flag around or some shit. But yeah, you're 100% right. We got Tyler Black and Kevin Steen going hell for leather, just beating the holy shit out of each other. Kevin getting that huge elbow drop off the WrestleMania sign. That was really like Kevin's first real WrestleMania moment, because you think about it, you know, he lost to Jericho, he lost to Daniel Bryan and Shane, because Shane McMahon's the best wrestler in the world. Oh God, I feel so dirty just saying that. Did he have a Mania match? Did he have a Mania match last year?
No, he was out.
Owens?
Yeah.
No, he was out injured. Yeah,
he
was injured.
Okay, but I think
I
this
like
is
how
also
Jay Miller's just echoing me. He said he was injured. He was injured.
I also think this was his first win, like, ever, and so realistically, he got 2 wins. He beat Seth Rollins twice. So let's. I know, isn't it? But I want it, so I'm going to take it.
I want it.
But it was great. We all know, even if it's been vocalized, that we're not the biggest fan of Seth Rollins on this podcast. We'll never say he's a poor worker, because he's not. He is a great worker. It's just most of the time his character or his things on Twitter that shouldn't be said, but he wanted to say it because he's a little fucking twat. I mean, you know, fine. But he's still a great in-ring worker, and this match was a perfect example of that. We got 2 guys that I didn't watch a lot of Ring of Honor back in the day, to be honest. I still don't watch it now. But I'm assuming that these 2 have met before, and the matches were probably great then, and they've only perfected the craft now. So they're only getting better. And if this match had a crowd, that probably would have made it a little better, perhaps. But I mean, we can just echo that sentiment for the next night as well, that it does suffer without having an audience, and that's something we've said numerous times, and I won't go into it too much. But just looking at this match by itself, I really enjoyed it. Both the guys got their shit in, and I'd love to see him. Actually, that's a lie. I don't want to see them go at it again. This is it. This is all we need. Please don't do it again.
Jay?
Well, you know they're going to have to do it again, because Seth Rollins...
You shut your mouth.
Seth Rollins is a spotlight.
You shut your mouth, brother.
Yeah, right. I love how you recalled, you know, Tyler Black and Kevin Steen. I could only imagine Owens having a Kill Steen Kill shirt on when he did that elbow drop spot. Oh, thank you. So I was okay. The match was great. I just, for the life of me, I don't know why we had to have Seth Rollins look like a nun coming out of the convent. with his all white and the Monday Night Messiah down his leg. Like, what the fuck is going on with that?
See, I don't know about that, man. I'm actually a really big fan. I'm big fan of white ring gear. I don't know why, but white ring gear always just looks really nice, really crisp.
I can be a fan of white rings as well, but yeah, ultimately I gotta be honest, actually, I agree with Carl. I actually thought he looked fine. I actually thought it was quite a good look. Yeah, he did look a little bit like a sort of male nun in some ways, which I tweeted out, so Jeremy has clearly stolen that off of the Twitter feed, but it's all good. Share alike. I'm onto you, bitch. I'm onto you. But yeah, no, I actually quite liked it, and I actually thought his entrance looked quite good. It could have done with more. That was the biggest problem. At Tardioson, the Louisiana man, our good brother, he tweeted out right at the moment. He said that it would have looked so much better if Murphy and the AOP had come out with similar kind of gear on, as like his apostles, his disciples, walking, alongside with him just at the front going, "Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes, look at me, I am a savior." It would have looked really cool if they all just stood behind him, kind of very disciplined, and he's just very animated, and they're all just standing there very plainly not doing anything. That might have helped it. This is the problem with WrestleMania being in the Performance Center, being in such a low-key kind of venue and a low-key area in a low-key time in our lives, is that you do lose a lot of the pageantry, the pyros, the glamorous entrances and things like that. And ultimately, if you want it this year, then you're going to have to get it from off-site shenanigans. And of course, we got it in bucket loads. But yeah, what can you say? I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. But to be honest, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about a monumental clash between two legends of the sport. We're talking about two people, right? This isn't really about titles. This is about two all-time legends clashing for supremacy in something more than just a squared circle. Let's just forget about the arena for a second. Let's talk about this. Braun Strowman winning the Universal Championship is arguably the greatest thing I've ever seen in WrestleMania history. So, good for all the rage coming through. Troll is imminent. The Jinder Mahal mode is back. But
warning,
by the way,
incoming troll.
I am Bender, insert trolling. So yeah, there is this kind of mentality. The Universal title is a bit of a lesser belt, and I don't know where they get that idea from, because Braun Strowman beat Goldberg in an absolutely long technical match, didn't he, lads? I think it was great. I thought it was such a good match, such a great match. Can we just talk about how great Braun Strowman is, beating Goldberg in 2 minutes 20?
This one needs a hook. This one needed the hook right away, man. Oh, fuck.
Come on. Who's most angry? I want to hear rage. Where is
I got it.
Okay,
I got this.
Go
ahead, buddy.
Get in
Go
there.
ahead.
2 minutes. He's got the hot tag.
I am telling you right now, I am so triggered with this because not even a month ago, Braun Strowman lost the Intercontinental title to Sami Zayn. So are we trying to say that Sami Zayn is better than Goldberg? I think not. Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Well, I mean, obviously he is better. He's Canadian. He's obviously better than Goldberg.
Oh,
well, first of all, can we just fuck you, because ultimately, okay, Sami Zayn's been a bit of an indie diner, but let's be honest, Goldberg is a better technical wrestler. He looks better. He's more powerful. He's better on the microphone. I'm just going to vomit if I carry on. I can't take it seriously, honestly. I think I'm developing COVID-19 just out saying this nonsense. The reality is that, sorry everyone if that offends you, Jesus, we've got to say something that offends every week. It's kind of, shut up. Anyway, so, yeah, no, this match was a match. But the one thing I will say, I know we're going to shit on it, we don't care, and the Universal title is a fucking joke. I swear to God, it's only allowed to be defended. Like, This feels like their version of the NWA Television Championship, where it's only allowed to be defended for 6 minutes 5 at the most. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. At least that's clever. This is not. It's just a belt for roided monkeys to knock each other out in 2 minutes, isn't it? It says a lot that arguably you could say that the best Universal title match. Do you know what? I was going to say that probably the best match of all time is Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 33, because that is just a no flim-flam smash mouth affair. But realistically, The Fiend was the only guy who brought real credibility to this title. And by having him completely cut off at the legs in the way they did, infuriating. But even the Fiend winning it, he won it in Saudi Arabia, which is a joke. This is basically the Saudi Arabian Championship at this point. And not only that, it took Daniel Bryan to really bring out the best. For me, the best Universal title match of all time is Daniel Bryan versus The Fiend from this year's SummerSlam, or last year's SummerSlam, excuse me. I think it was SummerSlam. Or Survivor Series, one or the other. I'm sure some internet nerd will correct me. Either way, when they faced each other for the Universal title, it was great. But this is 2 minutes 20. It's garbage, but it is short garbage, so at least you're not having to tolerate it for can you imagine if these guys had gone 10, 15 minutes fapping around the ring trying to fucking argue? And also, I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've seen a Braun Strowman match where he didn't go running around the ring like a toddler chasing after a fucking box of Lego. So, there is that.
It's probably because Goldberg couldn't stand on his own 2 feet outside the ring for too long without doing some sort of spear. Though I suppose having Goldberg spear Strowman after running around the ring, that might have been a cool spot to see, I guess.
It would have been very cool, actually, if Braun Strowman rolled out of the ring and then he kind of chased him down and he basically wound up to hit Goldberg and Goldberg retaliated by spearing him through the barrier. That would have looked fucking sick. That
could have been pretty cool.
They should have called it a day with Goldberg when he lost to Brock Lesnar at Mania 33, because in retrospect, that match actually isn't bad. It's only 5 minutes long, but at least they went full Suplex City and they did some crazy spots, spear, then he gets up, tries to F5 him, there's the jackhammer, there's the fucking spear through the barrier, and then Lesnar goes ape shit and gets the F5, and it was kind of smash mouth and no flim flam. So even though it wasn't a great wrestling match, it was a good spectacle. Goldberg has just been trash since, How you watch that match with The Undertaker and not think, okay, this guy needs to hang it up. Vince McMahon's return, that was money. That's great. Nobody cares about wrestling anyway. It's all about entertainment. Shut up. He can't even entertain. Literally, his whole gimmick. I've seen people argue the argument for Goldberg is that, he's a credible athlete, isn't he? And he's Goldberg, he looks like a star. That's great. I'm quite large. I'm quite hench. Does that mean I can be a Universal Champion too? Because I'll happily wrestle Braun Strowman. And I'll show him how to fucking work indie style, bitch. Because apparently he's got a problem with indie wrestlers. But that's also the elephant in the room, is the fact that he's basically been rewarded with a Universal title for being a colossal cockend on the internet. Congratulations, Braun Strowman. A winner is you.
Yeah, I said on our SmackDown review on YouTube that you guys should go listen to, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, cheap plug.
Gets involved.
But
cheap wrestle plug.
There it is. I haven't been interested in Braun Strowman since he was bullying Kevin Owens back in 2018. Pushing him over in the porta potty, throwing him off the top of a steel cage on the 20th anniversary of Mick Foley's infamous dive from the top of Hell in a Cell. I don't care. When he lost to Brock Lesnar after one F5, to me, he lost all credibility. He wasn't a monster. He's not a monster now. Like Jay said, he's already lost to Sami Zayn. Yeah, sure, it was a 3-on-1 match, blah, blah, blah. He still lost to Sami Zayn. And we've already talked about how not credible Sami Zayn is. I'm sorry, but he's not, and that hurts me to say. It hurts my Canadian soul. But he's a Universal Champion now. I think, honestly, he's just a placeholder till Roman feels safe to work again. And then if we get Roman against Braun again, and Braun can go full heel or something, I will accept that with a grain of salt, because
that was a good rivalry last time.
It was. That's the only reason I would accept it, because that was the last rivalry Braun was in that I really, really liked. And that's when it started to become hard to dispute that Roman wasn't a good wrestler or a good seller, because he sold for Braun like a fucking maniac. So if they're going to do that, fine. But as of right now, I absolutely hate it.
I have one other person that Braun Strowman could go after. The Golden Maharaja himself. Oh, Jesus.
We are ready for the return. No, he's you've had your time. Shut your mouth. This is all about gender mania. Like, just imagine it. Just, the pop for it. Mate, Jinder Mahal is ready. I think he's truly ready to take up that mantle again as one of the all-time greatest.
No. But
shut the hell up. Man, we're going to get Drew. We're going to get Jinder. The only thing we need is Heath Slater to be, I don't know.
Oh, God. Could you imagine Heath Slater having, like, the U.S. Intercontinental title? Drew
I can imagine it because I've been waiting forever for it.
Drew, the WWE champion, Jinder, the Universal champion, and a 3MB reunion with all gold.
It wouldn't be just a reunion, mate. It'd be the 3MB reunion tour because they're a band. Jesus fucking Christ, get it right.
Jesus. Okay, but the other guy that I think Braun Strowman could feud with and make it credible is The Fiend. That way they can, because Bray Wyatt has been going after people in his past. Who better to go after than one of his fellow Wyatt member family? In Braun Strowman.
Yeah, but he went after people that wronged him in the past. Braun didn't wrong him per se.
Yeah, no.
They just kind of closely and just they just kind of
that thing.
Whatever just kind of stopped.
What the hell did you just say?
Exactly. They just kind of silently shut the Wyatt family down. Like, there was no pomp or circumstance. There was nothing. It was just, oh, by the way, these guys aren't together anymore. I think they got split up in the brand split. And that was about it. So Braun hasn't really done anything to wrong him in the ways that Cena has, that Bryan has, Finn Balor, and all that kind of stuff. So while it could potentially work, it doesn't quite fit with the Fiend character, in my humble opinion.
I'm in fair agreement about that, to be honest. It's a very good point. Should we talk about the main event?
Oh, can we please? Please, can we, sir? Please, sir. Can we talk about the main event, sir?
Please,
fine,
sir.
Absolutely
I want some more, sir.
Fine, you cretins are basically my children. Let's let the kids play for a while. So, in the main event, and I must admit, an eyebrow was raised when I saw that Undertaker and AJ Styles would be in the main event. Now, we were promised off-site. Now, what did I say on the last podcast? I said that I wanted something that was final deletion worthy. I wanted something that was going to be crazy, ridiculous, but also really cutting edge, really different. And I got all of those things in spades. And I have to say, this was a fucking masterpiece. I am blown away at how special this was. And this is from the guy, and I openly own it, and I don't hide. I said this match should not have taken place. I said this well in advance. Now, admittedly, I thought it was going to be in a ring, and it was just going to be a one-on-one match. So I would like to preface it by the fact that if I'd known it was going to be off-site and final deletion worthy, then of course I would have been all for that. So there are two things I've always clamoured for. One being, of course, an Undertaker match that I like, because it's been a while. And also, I wanted so desperately to see the American Badass. I feel like this main event was everything that anyone who has ever loved Undertaker wanted. We have so badly wanted to see him more humanized and get away from the dead man in some ways. Use elements of it. What made the American Badass so cool? It was the fact that he still had remnants of the dead man about him. Remember when he first came back and he had the trench coat and he was like, he said like, I still dance with the devil, but baby, I am bad. Like, it was just this cool idea of like, he is a badass, but he's still dark. He can still do crazy dark shit. We got an amalgamation of everything. That was what was so cool. He had new ring gear. Loved his trousers, by the way. Fucking sick. 1 minute pair of those. Turned up on a motorcycle. Metallica playing, I believe. Like, oh my God. It was a set piece like no other. And I genuinely think I'm going to struggle here to tell you how special this is for me. I've watched wrestling for 32 years now. And throughout that 32 years, the guy I always related to or saw most was The Undertaker. There have been other wrestlers that have been my favourites, whether that be Stone Cold, even for a while, the legend Killer Randy Orton, RVD. I can think about all these wrestlers that at some period or another have been my favourite wrestler. But the constant has always been that The Undertaker has been this magical, almost deity, this biblical figure of wrestling, the cornerstone of the WWF to the WWE. The most loyal soldier you could ever ask for, a man who never jumped ship, a man who never really asked for anything other than just that hard work rate. The most respected man in the history of wrestling, frankly. And he went into this concept, and I remember saying to you guys as we were watching it live, what was so cool about this being pre-taped is that The Undertaker didn't have to worry about the normal restraints. Gassing out quickly or blowing up or, just looking a little bit haggard. He had a chance to let's be honest, he was in phenomenal shape. He looked incredible. This was a fitting tribute to The Undertaker we've always wanted. And the fact that we got everything that we wanted as well. And we got to see him wrestle AJ Styles. Let's not forget AJ Styles' role in this. He is, to all intents and purposes, the modern day Shawn Michaels. He's the phenomenal one. He's the best worker of the modern generation. Undertaker specifically asked for this match for that reason. And I'm so grateful. This is the one time I can honestly say I'm thankful for the coronavirus, because we wouldn't have got this without it. There's no way we would have got this. We would have got some shit 15-minute slugfest in a stadium, and it just wouldn't have had the same effect. You would have had to, Gallows and Anderson on a ring apron or whatever. Instead, we got this. This, for me, was a masterpiece. This was like watching a boss fight in your favourite video game. This was like watching the finale of The Walking Dead. This was like seeing the ultimate villain and the ultimate good guy clash. But there were no good guys. There were no bad guys for me. There were just two icons. This felt like Rick Grimes versus Negan, in just a knockout, drag-out fight with just a little touch of the paranormal as well, and the supernatural, which you'd expect for The Undertaker. A little bit of teleportation because, hey, it is The Undertaker. But we got everything, and we even got a nod to the old logo, and we also got a televised murder, which it's been a while, to be fair. So, yeah, wow. I'd like to do a podcast based solely on this match, and I can't wait. If Wrestle Plug's still going in 5 or 6 years, I want us to sit down when we're going through manic matches, not manic Mondays, and I think this is one that I'd really like to revisit over and over. I can see myself watching this 50 times in the next couple of weeks. Thrilled, absolutely thrilled at how special this was. This was 5 stars. End of story.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot more I can add to that, but I'll do what I can. It is common knowledge, as much as I love my KOs, as much as I love my Sami Zayns, AJ Styles is my favorite wrestler of all time. He can pretty much do it all. We've talked about how great he is in the ring. He's the modern day Shawn Michaels. That's inarguable. People have said, oh, but AJ can't talk on the mic. You shut your fucking mouth. Did you see the promos?
John Cena rivalry. That's where it all turned around for me, is the John Cena rivalry. And ever since then, he's been masterful. With Gallows and Anderson, by the way, should not be discounted in the fact that they have sat behind it for so long now. And they have been, let's be honest, they've done jack shit since they got to the WWE. They've had a couple of cheap tag team title reigns, and they won that stupid Saudi Arabia tournament that nobody cares about. But realistically, we're talking about one of the best tag teams to never get used properly in wrestling history, for my money, at least on the WWE. And I know they had a fantastic run in NJPW, multiple time IWGP heavyweight tag team champions, but that's, Bullet Club and all that nonsense. But in WWE, it's been poor. But they have acted as a masterful foil to AJ Styles, and the three of them are like this beautiful cohesive unit. They really are as equal. There are equal parts hilarious, equal parts dangerous, equal parts destructive. They have everything as a trio, and I'm worried that we're not ever going to see AJ Styles again, because I'm pretty sure he was murdered.
I mean, we saw his hand stick it out of the dirt at the end. It probably twitched a little bit. We were just too blown away to actually notice because, like you said, this is everything I've wanted from an Undertaker match in years. Just counting WrestleMania matches, because I do believe his tag match with Roman at Extreme Rules last year was one of the best showings we've had from him in years. But if you just count WrestleMania shows, this is his best match since WrestleMania 29. And that says a lot considering how much I hate that motherfucker from Chicago.
I am in full agreement.
I think this match, because it was filmed off-site, because of the current pandemic, you said it already, and we've said it on the show before, that this had to be some carny bollocks. This just had to be a load of bullshit. And it was. I can't imagine this match being in a ring, because even if it was, I'm sure AJ still could have pulled a good match out of the dead man, because that's just what he does. But fatigue would set in. Taker would eventually start to slow down, because he's not a young man. He is pushing probably 55, maybe even close to 60. I'm not 100% sure. But he's been wrestling for 30 years. Like, his debut in the WWE, sorry, he's just been in WWE 30 years. He's been wrestling longer than that. Like, the man has paid his dues to this business, and he's still pulling out matches like this. When he, what are some of the cool spots? Because I always like to point those out. They climbed on top of the little shed or mausoleum or whatever it was. He tosses Luke Gallows down. He tombstones Anderson on the fucking metal sheet roofing. Chokeslams AJ through the ground. I mean, the spots in this were so cool. Even the very beginning, when the hearse came in and we heard Undertaker's music, and you and I, we both sides were like, fuck, it's going to be the dead man. And then AJ pops out of the coffin like a fucking slimy little bastard. And I'm like, that's it. I just got worked. But it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And then you just hear the motorcycle rev, Taker coming down the road, and they're just beating the shit out of each other. It's like, oh, come on, boy. That's what I love. It was so American badass, because he was that best Taker version. Don't at me. And if you do, I'll fight you. It's fine. I don't care. I love the American badass. I loved Big Evil. But I love the dead man. I love the leader of the ministry. The Undertaker is such a defining character in the world of professional wrestling that he can evolve like that. It's like he evolves more than Chris Jericho, and we all compliment on how well Jericho can adapt to the current climate wherever he is. I think Undertaker can do a better job, and this shows that he can do a better job. I could talk about this forever, so I'll let Jay Miller get in on this, buddy.
I appreciate that, sir. Yeah, that I'm going to go on record and say that this is by far top 3 best match of the Undertaker's career. Even if it's a gimmick match, even if it should have never happened like it did, I'm fucking glad that it did, because if it didn't, we would have this was amazing. The spots with, like you said, Gallows getting thrown off the mausoleum or the shed or whatever it was, Anderson pretty much getting killed by a tombstone on a roof, and then the pyro behind AJ before the choke slam. Fucking, just amazing. And then the end, fucking, you see AJ's hand sticking out of the ground, and here comes the old logo, and fucking Metallica hits, and Taker just takes off. I want this to be his last match, because if it is, it would be a perfect send-off. He needs... I love The Undertaker. Other than Randy Orton, he's my number 2.
Gross, but continue.
Who does number 2 work for?
God damn it, stop. No, I want this to be the finish. I really do. I think that this would be the perfect way for Taker to come out on Raw after Mania and say, I gave Alan a run. He's not here right now. He's kind of, buried under some work or something, just play it off or something. But then just say, this is the way I want to go. This was my last ride. And he takes off and he rides out in the sunset, and they pan out, and he's riding the bike all the way through the Performance Center, out the door, down the road. And then Hall of Fame next year. You can quote me as saying it. If he is done, Hall of Fame next year, no question.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question there that he needs to go into the Hall of Fame if he's done there. But there was an emotional level to this that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I mentioned this during the match, didn't I? A lot of people give Impact Wrestling a lot of shit. They do. They give it a lot of shit.
Fuck those people. Sorry.
Okay, that seems...
Delete them. Delete them all.
Oh, I see what you've done there. That's very clever. But yeah, ultimately, it's the legacy of what he's done. And it's really funny that they've used basically something that TNA/Impact was willing to try before them. And that is what has given us the very, very special moment that we saw tonight, ironically enough. Because let's be honest, if they don't do Final Deletion, do you really get this? Do you think they're going to have this idea in their butt? Do you know what? It's kind of weird to say, but I almost feel like Matt Hardy might have had a real hand in the ultimate legacy of what The Undertaker means, because this is going to be a match that is, and there's no question that WWE, with their processing power, with their financial backing, that they were able to produce something even better. For me, this is better than Final Deletion. And I love Final Deletion. I think it's an absolute masterpiece, and I absolutely love that incredible tag team match that Decay had with the Hardys, with the, Vanguard 1, spraying Rosemary with the mist, and so many crazy things going on in that. And I like... I know I ranted on the State of Wrestling address about how wrestling has become this stupid kind of carnival circus in places, but I still like a bit of the circus. I want some seriousness, but I like a bit of the circus too. And this is everything. But do you know what? I felt like it was just the right side of serious, as opposed to being too ridiculous. It was ridiculous, but it wasn't so ridiculous that I just couldn't appreciate it. It had a lot of darkness to it, had a lot of edge to it. The emphasis of the sound effects on the punching as well. I know that a lot of people might think that sounds a little bit cheesy. I actually thought that was really good. I thought it added cadence to it. I thought it added a lot more realism to it. I'm really excited to see what Jim Cornette says, because I know he's going to review it, and he is, I'm really excited to see whether his opinion finally correlates with mine, but... I'm thrilled for this match, and in some ways I want this to be the end of both guys. I don't want to see The Undertaker again. Come back for the Hall of Fame, that's fine. I don't even want to see him on Raw. I just want people to say this, he finally rode off into the sunset the way it should have been, as a real man and not just this zombie dead man. There was some of that there. But I love the idea of this being this almost evil, dark, bloody, romantic ending. The Undertaker has always been about taking souls. He's always been about reaping souls. He's always been about resting in peace. Well, he had that, but he did it as a real man. He did it as the American badass. And to see AJ Styles, who is, without a question, one of the greatest performers in wrestling history, not just as an athlete, but also as a character, especially in the back end of his career. If this is his way of saying goodbye as well, what a masterpiece. Never to be seen in WWE again, completely written out of wrestling. Imagine if this was his retirement match. If it is, I doubt it is. You don't want AJ Styles to ever go away, and he's still got plenty of years left in him, as you can tell. But I loved it. The way he was begging him, please don't bury me, almost crying, and Taker sort of looking for remorse and then thinking, no, absolutely not. There's so many things here, and I'm so excited to see what they do as a follow-up. That's what I'm most excited to see. There could be so many things. Do you know what? If there was only one thing I would have loved to have seen in this match, a little cameo from his brother Kane. I would have loved to have seen a little cameo. Maybe Kane dispatching Gallows and Anderson, or using the fire. Maybe just when that fire goes off, maybe Kane drags Gallows and Anderson into the fire and then we don't see them again and it's just down to them. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that this is truly, for me, one of the all-time great moments in WrestleMania history. And I think it's punctuated by the fact that it was not a very good WrestleMania. And I think that's really strange to say, that I saw truly something special tonight, a real masterpiece. And yet, I also watched one of the worst manias they've had in modern history. And I know a lot of people will say, COVID-19, pandemic. I understand that, that's fine. But you can't really sit here and say to me that, they couldn't have made it easier for themselves, because they could have. From a booking standpoint, there were some bad decisions made. But when it counted most, and when you wanted to end the story and end the first night on a high, they did that too. So it really was the best and the worst of wrestling. in a 3.5 hour slot. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Anything you lads would like to throw in as a final remark before we discuss any interactions that we've been sent?
I would like to.
Yeah, by all means, Mike. Go ahead. After you there,
Okay. Thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate
that's a really good. I like the honesty there. That's really honest. Yeah, I like that. That's
got some good dear manners,
and
bud.
respect.
Oh, by the way,
Canadian
you got
decency
that.
there, eh?
You got that Tim Hortons double A?
Oh, you're talking about that Tim Hortons. They make some great coffee, eh? Oh, great coffee. Get a coffee and a donut, eh? It's great stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Like a good coffee with my donut, eh? Now, tell me what you thought about WrestleMania. What's it all about, eh?
What's it all about there, eh? What's your opinion got there, bud?
Tell us what you thought, you freaking loser.
Oh, shit. I just wanted to, like you said, if this was AJ's last match and Taker's last match, how fitting would it be that he put away Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, and then he put away the new Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania? It would just be, I think it would be poetic, in my opinion. But I don't think AJ's done. I think AJ might be taking a break, but I don't think he's done. Kind of like I honestly don't think Undertaker's done, but I hope he is. Because it was perfect to end it the way he did.
I mean, Chris, if all Undertaker matches are like this from now on, I'll watch him until he's literally too old to stand. Because this was fucking incredible. But I want to focus in on AJ a little bit. Let's remember, AJ Styles debuted at the Royal Rumble 2016. He's been in the WWE, the air quotes, big leagues, for just over 4 years. And in that time, I think just based on his WWE career alone, he's already made himself a Hall of Fame career. Like, we can talk about all the stuff he did in TNA. We can talk about Ring of Honor. We can talk about New Japan. That's fine. But just in the 4 years he's been in the WWE, he's a 2-time WWE champion with one of the longest reigns in modern history. He's never won a Royal Rumble, but that's because in his debut at the Royal Rumble, he was in it. He was WWE champion in 2017, 2018. I think he was WWE champion for 2019 too. Was he champ last year?
I think he was US champ, wasn't he? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Oh no, he lost.
Let's not derail it.
It doesn't matter. The point is, and he's been 2 or 3 time United States champion. This man has done just about everything you can do in the WWE. So in 4 years, he's done more to make a name for himself than people who have been there for 10 to 12. That just goes to show how brilliant of a worker AJ Styles is. And he's going to go down in history as, for me, top 3 wrestlers ever. Like, overall, in-ring work, promo work, storytelling, all that stuff, he will be top 3 ever for me.
I don't think that's... Yeah, do you know what? I don't think that's a stretch. I think when you say work rate, just astonishing. He is definitely this generation Shawn Michaels. It hurts. It does hurt a lot because obviously, I'm a Bret Hart man. But he is, and it's a masterpiece. Shall we discuss what our fans have to say? Because we actually got a little bit of feedback, which was nice.
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Really? That's great.
Yeah, I know. We haven't had feedback for ages. So, Astrid Pizarro, our good friend, has been in touch at Astrid Pizarro on the Twitter. And also check out, if you're a reading fan, if you're into novels, if you're into any kind of literary concepts, she's a really cool person to follow. Does a lot of readathons and things like that. So I thought I'd just give her a little bit of a plug there because I'm a good guy like that. Oh, I'm a totally good guy, eh? Drinking my Tim Hortons coffee and reading.
Oh, the best kind of guy there, eh?
Oh, that's the best kind of guy. Oh, that's a good bear. I mean, I make my own maple syrup, eh? So,
you're an all right kind of guy, man. You're an all right kind of guy.
I like how he's just stuck with the American. He's like, I'm not even going to try being Canadian. I'm going to be white trash. Oh, dear. Answering the age-old question of what happens when a Canadian, an Englishman, and an American get stuffed in a room together. Horrible things. That's what happens. So anyway, Astrid Pizarro. I really enjoyed the match. I believe she's referring to the Boneyard match. I'm glad it was different. They made it work with the current situation, so it makes me wonder what the Firefly Funhouse match will be like. Yeah, this is basically what all eyes are going to be on now, isn't it, really? We've almost forgotten that Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar is supposed to be the big cheese match tomorrow. Although, however, we have to say that WrestleMania Night 2 stacked like a motherfucker. At Crowington, all in all, more fun than I thought it would be. Tag team title match was really good. Owens versus Rollins was decent. Owens' dive off the sign was boss. We didn't mention that, did we? Owens' insane little dive.
No, I think I did.
Through the table.
I think I mentioned it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you mentioned you did. See, that's the great thing about having a Canadian. They cover all the angles. And he also says, and the Boneyard match was the best kind of bollocks I've ever seen. Just enthralling. And that is such an English take. I love it. Wrestlemania says, everyone tell Aaron how awesome Sami Zayn is. I've never said he was terrible. I just don't care about him now. She also said, I already tweeted, but I felt so sad at the start. Like, it's not Mania. And Sammy's trash talk and classic heel shtick lifted my spirits. I'm pretending Gold Brawn didn't happen, and the Boneyard match was fucking beautiful. Also, the video voice guy at the start sounded like you. Oh, thank you. apparently I can do that voice pretty well. So, no idea. Is that because he was some poncy English guy? Because I really take offense to that. No, I don't really. No. But seeing as it's WrestleMania and I know she's not a big fan of cursing, thank you very much. Fuck you. She'll love that. She also said, oh, and damn Kevin Owens, and she gave us the Home Alone Kevin Owens gif, so you can't really go wrong, can you? Let's be fair. WrestleRush.com have said that they low-key wished it would say Alan on the AJ Styles Rest in Peace tombstone. So there you go. I mean, Jeremy Miller's already referenced that, which is fair enough. The Thing from Under the Ring. Really like this guy. He's been following us recently at Wrestling Horror. He's a really good follower, so check him out. A strong show, even though the early matches were decent. It felt like it was going to be a long night, but really picked up in the second half, all building to an amazing finish. I think that's going to be the legacy of this WrestleMania, is the fact that the first half was pretty shit, but the second half, other than, the Universal title match, it was a good second half, to be fair. Alex Delanzo's been in touch at ADelanzo1. Of course, you will recognise him as a guy who helps us cover the indies. He is officially a host of Wrestle Plug at the best of times, but it's great to see that he's chiming in with some interactions here. Only caught the last 3 matches. You lucky bastard. I actually thought the KO match was really good, apart from the stunner. Only stopped using it. I have been on record as saying I'm not a huge fan of it, but he did deliver a good stunner here. Of course you do, because you're a hot, sweaty mug. And also he's Canadian. If he was American, you'd be like, no, fuck's sake, another Austin ripoff.
Oh, it's just because he's a feather hoser there, eh, bud?
Oh, there's you fellow hoser there, eh? Oh, I just love them Canadian wrestlers, eh? Like, they can totally appropriate everybody else's finishing moves, eh? Really good stuff. Loved it. Anyway.
I mean, if he could use his Ring of Honor finisher, it'd be so much better. But no, a pile driver's not allowed. But Canadian destroyers are.
I mean, he needs a package pile driver as well, which is generally one of the most... By the way, Jordan Devlin uses that as a finisher, or at least he did as the import killer in OTT. Not to mention, of course, our good brother Penta El0M, Cero Miedo. Oldberg versus Stromance. That's an interesting... Everyone's got different names for these lot. And they are not typos, just nicknames. Was laughable, inexplicable, and horrid. The Boneyard match was phenomenal, was intriguing, hit the Undertaker's flaws very nicely, fantastic use of the areas and superb lighting and angles to build tension, possibly and probably the wrong result, but it is what it is. I'd rather see a powerful Undertaker win over Styles than Styles win over an old man. It's a good way of looking at things, to be fair. I really appreciate that. So, yeah, just looking through. Also, Vader 711. Braun is Universal Champ. Looks like SmackDown gonna get these hands. Thank you for that, good sir. And also, Diva Cake, at Diva Cake _ has sent us a novella, and I really appreciate this. That AJ Taker match was not my thing at all. It was terrible. Here we go. I look forward to this.
Oh, wait a second.
Let him finish. Then you can wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no problem listening, but Jesus Christ.
I think most people think the same. No.
No.
But they see it as funny bad and got and got a lot of humour out of this. After the first 2 minutes of being surprised and entertained, I thought, well, I hear Paul talk about we're shooting movies here, and I think they really thought they were. After the first few minutes of being intrigued, I found it silly and cringe. It was never boring, though. But that's the sort of thing that as a wrestling fan, you're hoping no one walks in on you watching. I didn't like the Matt Hardy segment 2 weeks ago. I realised I sound like a miserable prick, and I am. But this was just too hokey for me. But I'm glad they've done this rather than a wrestling match at Full Sail. As Taker done his fire gimmick at the end, my girl woke up and asked what I was watching. I quickly turned it off and told her she caught me watching porn. I saved myself there. I'll tell you what, Diva Cake, it might be a terrible take to some, but I appreciate your candid nature, and I most certainly appreciate the honesty. You really can't go wrong with a bit of that. Absolutely phenomenal. So shout out to you. Follow him at DivaCake _. One thing I like about that guy is you're going to get some honesty out of him. So, yeah. Hopefully it was some good porn. And that pretty much wraps it up. Does anybody want to take umbrage with what Mr. Diva Cake said?
Kyle, go ahead.
I mean, it's not like I don't understand the point of view, because one of my greatest gifts or curses, depending on how I like to look at it on any particular day, is I play devil's advocate very well. I can understand people's point of view, even if I disagree with it. And I think, again, that can be both blessing and a curse. But I don't understand how you could dislike this match. It was so much fun. There was so much just stupid bullshit and some campy fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that because of the current climate going on right now. There's so much shit going on in this world right now that having a little laugh like that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It was funny. It had, it had the serious moments. It had funny moments. It had everything you could want from a sports entertainment point of view. And that's what The Undertaker is. He is, I mean, he can work. Don't get me wrong. You wouldn't last as long as The Undertaker if you couldn't, work. But for this, he didn't really have to, per se, because it was pre-recorded. Like you said before, he wouldn't have to worry about getting gassed. They could take their time, make sure they film everything perfectly, correctly. The lighting, the music, they did have like a stupid little Undertaker teleport spot on the back of the John Deere. Whatever, fine. Just one of those was enough, and AJ sold it like $1 million. It was the best match on an otherwise very underwhelming WrestleMania. I'm aware this was only night 1, and night 2 is going to be fucking stacked. They saved everything for tomorrow, which I don't completely understand. I know Sunday's a traditional day, blah, blah. But this match, for me, saved night 1, other than, like the ladder match and KO and Seth, I still did enjoy. But this Boneyard match, in my opinion, it saved the show for night 1.
I do think that if this match wasn't as good as at least we think it was, and maybe it probably helps that we were kind of watching it as, a unit as well. That always helps and little things like that. But I honestly do think, and I agree with you, that if this match didn't go down, this would have been a garbage day of wrestling. And I said to you guys during the show, it did feel a little bit like one of these network specials or one of these WWE Access presents some wrestling in front of 100 diehard fans. Like, it did feel a little bit like that, but not even with that amount of fans. Something that we've completely glossed over, and I have to say that it's really pissed me off. There were 2 things that really wound me off. Typical that we would try and end on a fucking negative, not a positive. JBL on commentary, go fuck yourself. That really wound me up. Like, it's just not needed. And also, like, I get it. He's gone in the Hall of Fame and everything, and that's fine. He's worthy of his place there from a wrestling standpoint, or at least say that much. But there is a lot of activity that's alleged that we have just completely swept under the carpet, and I'm not willing to forgive that. And there is a lot of hard evidence to suggest, like, I'm not going to call Edge a liar for what he wrote in his book, because, come on, look at Edge and then look at JBL. Who do you trust more? Probably the guy who's willing to cave your head in with a chair. Ultimately, please don't concerto me, bro. But also the fact that it just didn't lend itself well to the broadcast. And then on the flip side of things, we had a couple of goobers. One guy from the NFL and his hopped up cokehead friend. And yeah, Mojo Rawley captured the 24/7 championship. By the way, R-Truth, basically got pinned and jobbed out by what was essentially a semi-stiff elbow to the midsection from the Gronk. Fuck off. That's all I have to say on that. I don't understand why he's relevant. Like, I get it why he's relevant. I get it. He's a star. I get it. He's an NFL player, and he was absolutely a star. And I know Jeremy Miller's triggered because he's a Patriot, and he obviously hates the Patriots. And, you know, everyone hates the Patriots because they win a lot. That's basically the problem here. And before anyone starts coming at me and saying, oh, we're here for the Patriots, fucking everyone hates them because they cheat all the time. It's like, well, actually, if I'm being genuinely open and honest as a Broncos fan, we actually have the biggest amount of cheating in the history of the NFL.
Can I tag in on that one?
Oh, get on with it, America.
Thank you. Okay. I am so triggered by Gronk and Mojo and, oh, God. I'm sorry. Gronk looked like a retarded version of Tiger King with his blue tiger stripe Gronk wear or whatever the hell that was, and then Mojo Mojo
can't wait to
with
see that in the shops.
Mojo with his white suit and his like tiger stripe little pin, whatever fucking accent. They had to have this 24/7 spot to try and make Gronk look good. I'm sorry, Gronk is not good. Gronk, the only reason that Gronk is anything is because of Tom Brady. Go ahead and at me on Twitter. I'll argue with you to death. If it wasn't for Tom Brady, Gronk would be a no-named bum. But
this is not the NFL podcast. I would just like to point this out. I know there is no football right now, and frankly, let's be honest, everyone cares about the XFL. That's where the money is. But, this is not the NFL. So if you want to have a go at Rob Gronkowski and Brady and all this shit, save it for the sports section of the Wrestle Plug, which will open up when we're famous enough.
Okay. I'll keep
Fretting.
it. I'm sorry. I triggered because the only reason that he got signed by WWE is because of his fame, and the only reason he has his fame is because of either way.
Fair enough. Anything else? Any sporting opinions we want to throw out there? Because apparently we're not interested in the wrestling anymore.
I mean, I'm not much of a sports guy, so I'd like to try and bring it back to what we're here for before we call it a day. Just got to keep some sort of semblance of order here. I think this WrestleMania, it will definitely go down in history, be it good or bad. It's historic either way. And I, for one, wasn't super excited about this Mania because without the crowd, without everything that goes on at WrestleMania week, all the independent promotions that do stuff during Mania week too, it wasn't just WWE that suffered here. A lot of companies suffered here, and we can't forget that. But WWE going ahead trying to make this a fun weekend for everyone, and honestly, I would give night one probably a good solid B. B minus maybe. If it didn't have that bullshit Strowman Goldberg, I might have given it a little bit higher.
I'm assuming the B stands for Boneyard.
Then I'd give it a BY for Boneyard. But Y is not a grade, and that was a really bad joke. So let's all pretend that didn't happen. Can you edit that out for me? That'd be great.
Wow. Is anyone still listening after that?
Probably not.
Almighty.
But
I mean, nobody listens anyway. Effectively, what we're doing here is like, do you know what? I want to test this. How many of you are listening? Tell me if you heard this soundbite of me asking you, are you still listening? All I want you to do is send a tweet or, a message of any kind to anything that involved with Wrestle Plug. Just literally send us a message that says, I was listening. And I want to see how many people do that. I'll be very curious.
We're testing you little bastards.
Yeah, we are. Use the hashtag get plugged in as well, you monkeys. Anyway, we don't want to know. We don't want to talk about testing labs because it seems like that seems to have made a quite sizable amount of damage in the world right now. And that is no laughing matter. But do you know what I did appreciate? The fact that he brought up that it wasn't just WWE that was affected by this, a multitude of independent promotions. And as we know right now, there are a lot of people out there, myself included, who are either self-employed or completely unemployed in my case now, unfortunately, who don't have any ability to monetize ourselves. And I'm not going to sit here and beg and say, buy a Wrestle Plug t-shirt or anything like that. But if you do know anyone who's involved, anyone who likes wrestling, who maybe would like our fresh and candid approach, most importantly for us, it would be really cool to just have more people on board and enjoying the product. You know, if that leads to monetization of some sort, great. But that's not really what I'm in this for. I'm in this for entertainment. I'm in this for enjoyment and for the creative enjoyment I get from it, and the fact that it helps with the mental health and everything else that's going on in my personal life right now. So for me, it would be nice to just, you know, spread that name around as much as possible and have more people interacting and sending their thoughts in. But Wrestlemania continues tomorrow. Very weird to say that, but we're going to be back tomorrow with more nonsense. We will once again have an Xbox Live party open, ladies and gentlemen. And fear not, if you don't have an Xbox, you can still join the party. Congratulations. And also there will be another Wrestle Plug PvP tomorrow. So we want predictions for all the matches that are on tomorrow that are left. Quite easy to get your hands on them, but we're updated on social media. DM us with your predictions for WrestleMania Night 2, and whoever gets the most right will win a podcast in the bank and the opportunity to come on and chat to myself and Carl, and also berate Jay Minner because he is the new Dexter. Congratulations, Jay Minner. It's been an absolute pleasure, lads. Thank you very much for joining me to discuss Night 1 of WrestleMania 36.
Well, thank you for having me, buddy. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you about the wrestling. And be ready, folks. We got Night 2 coming in, and it's going to be some hot stuff.
I swear to God, if John Cena beats Bray Wyatt tomorrow, one of you is going to be sacrificed to the almighty Imhotep.
Apparently, that'll be me.
Well, it has to be you.
Oh, of course.
Well, you say it has to be him, but to be fair, there's not really much of him. I imagine if you sacrifice Jay Miller to a god, they'd be pretty pissed off with that. It'd be like kind of the equivalent of like, well, I was going to give you a roast dinner, but here's a Slim Jim. You know? Like,
Rip into a Slim Jim.
You basically are Slim Jim. It's great. I enjoyed that.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of sacrifices are like blood sacrifices, though, and regardless of the size of the flesh, the human body still holds the same amount of blood either way. So,
that's
you never know.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. See, I'm not up on my sacrifices like Carl Wilkinson. That's why he's on this podcast, to offer you that important knowledge on sacrifices. So just so you know, guys, if you are going to make a sacrifice this weekend, ultimately find somebody who's got a very high level of blood in their system. Happy days. All right. So, yeah, with death, boneyards, sacrificial lambs, and people listening aside, I think it's time to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. So don't forget, at Wrestle Plug on all the social media platforms. And like I've said, we will have an Xbox Live party. We will be watching the show live. Not only that, we'll be recording everybody who joins. So, you know, just a little disclaimer there. If you do want to join us for that, you will be recorded. So, you know, if that's something you're not comfortable with, please let us know prior to it, because obviously, you know, we record it. Nothing nefarious. We just want to have extra content to give away on a future Patreon, and also just the opportunity to, you know, have some commentary of certain matches. But we will be watching the whole thing live and then recording the podcast after that, and you are more than welcome to join us for the show itself. So more the merrier. And like I said, you don't need an Xbox to join the Xbox party. All you need to do is download the app, and if you've got an email or a Microsoft account, you can use that to sign in and join the party. But until Night 2, thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you very soon for more nonsense on the Wrestle Plug.